Let's go Ravens! The atmosphere around the Baltimore Ravens right now is intense, and there's a lot happening behind the scenes that fans need to understand. This offseason has been full of surprises, unexpected moves, and some decisions that are clearly shaping the direction of this team heading into the next season. And today I want to break down exactly what's going on, because the Ravens front office has been extremely active, and some of these moves could have a big impact on how this team performs when the season begins. But before we continue, make sure you've already clicked the like button if you've been a Baltimore Ravens fan for more than 20 years. It's always amazing to see fans from different generations supporting this team. And if you can, drop a comment saying, "Go Ravens! My heart beats purple and black." Now let's get straight into it, because one of the biggest stories right now involves how the Ravens are rebuilding key parts of their roster through free agency. One move that immediately caught attention was the signing of safety Jalen Hawkins to a 2-year, $10 million deal. Hawkins spent last season with the Patriots, where he recorded 71 tackles and 4 interceptions. The interesting part of this move is not just the player himself, but what it says about the Ravens' strategy this offseason. Last season taught the team a tough lesson about the importance of depth at the safety position. At one point the Ravens had Kyle Hamilton, Darius Washington, and Malachi Starks forming a strong group, but when Washington suffered a torn Achilles earlier in the offseason, the Ravens suddenly found themselves short-handed in that third safety role. The team didn't address the problem immediately, and it took weeks before they finally brought in help. Eventually Alohi Gilman came in and helped stabilize the defense, but by then the Ravens had already felt the consequences of being reactive instead of proactive. This year, the front office clearly wants to avoid that situation. With Darius Washington now heading to the Giants and Alohi Gilman moving to the Chiefs, Baltimore needed to act quickly. That's where the Jalen Hawkins signing comes in. The Ravens are making sure that they have depth at safety before the draft even arrives, which gives them more flexibility when selecting players later. And that wasn't the only move the Ravens made. Another signing that has people talking is tight end Durham Smythe. The Ravens brought him in to fill the blocking tight end role that opened up after Charlie Kolar left. Smythe brings experience and already has a connection with the Ravens offensive coordinator Declan Doyle, who worked with him previously in Chicago. That familiarity could make the transition smoother for the offense. Smythe also brings production, with 136 career catches, and his ability to contribute as a blocker could be extremely important for this offense led by Lamar Jackson. With Mark Andrews already established as a major target in the passing game, adding a tight end who understands the system and can support both the run and pass game could help balance the offense. Of course, the Ravens' offseason hasn't only been about additions. The team has also lost some key players. Isaiah likely moved on to the Giants, while Charlie Kolar joined the Chargers with Justin Herbert. Losing those pieces changes the dynamic of the tight end room, which is another reason why the Smythe signing was important. Defensively, the Ravens have also been dealing with questions about their pass rush. At one point there was massive excitement about a potential trade involving Max Crosby, a move that would have sent shockwaves through the league. Fans were stunned when the news first broke, with some even believing the Ravens had pulled off one of the boldest trades in franchise history. But in the end, the situation changed and the deal didn't happen. Still, the Ravens didn't sit still. The team ended up making a major move by bringing in Trey Hendrickson on a big contract, showing that Baltimore is still determined to strengthen its defensive front. And when you look at the bigger picture, it's clear that the Ravens are trying to rebuild their roster in multiple areas at the same time. In the secondary, the team still has talent with players like Nate Wiggins, Marlon Humphrey, and TJ Tampa in the mix. Meanwhile, leaders like Kyle Hamilton continue to be key pieces of the defensive identity. But depth will be critical, especially considering how quickly injuries can change everything during a long NFL season. So when you step back and look at all these moves together, the signing of Jalen Hawkins, the addition of Durham Smythe, the return of Chidobe Awuzie on a 1-year deal, and the big defensive investment in Trey Hendrickson, it becomes clear that the Ravens are trying to address multiple weaknesses before the draft even begins. This is a proactive approach, and it could give the team more freedom when it comes time to make selections. But the big question now is whether these moves are enough to push the Ravens closer to another championship run. The team still has Lamar Jackson leading the offense, and with the right support around him, Baltimore always has the potential to compete with the best teams in the league. And when you look deeper into everything that has happened this offseason, it really feels like the Baltimore Ravens front office is operating with a very clear objective: fix problems before they become emergencies. That is something the team struggled with last season, and it's something they clearly want to avoid going forward. Take the safety position for example. Last year the Ravens believed they had everything under control with Kyle Hamilton, Darius Washington, and Malachi Starks forming that trio in the secondary. On paper it looked solid, But once Washington suffered that Achilles injury in the offseason, everything started to shift. Suddenly the Ravens didn't have the depth they thought they had, and it took several weeks into the season before they finally addressed the issue by bringing in help. That delay showed just how important that third safety role really was. And when Alohi Gilman eventually stepped in, the defense immediately looked more stable. That wasn't a coincidence. It was a reminder that sometimes the smallest position on the roster can have a massive impact on how a defense performs throughout the season. This year the Ravens clearly remembered that lesson, and by signing Jalen Hawkins early, they're making sure they're not caught off guard again. But that's only part of the story. Another important element of what the Ravens are doing right now involves building familiarity within the offense. That's where the Durham Smythe signing becomes even more interesting. When a team hires a new offensive coordinator like Declan Doyle, it's very common for that coach to bring in players who already understand his system. Smythe fits that description perfectly. He spent time with Doyle in Chicago, which means he already understands many of the concepts that the Ravens offense could be implementing. That kind of familiarity can be extremely valuable, especially during training camp when players are learning a new system. Smythe might not be the flashiest addition, but moves like this can quietly help the offense run more smoothly. And remember, the Ravens' tight end room went through some major changes. Isaiah Likely is now with the Giants, and Charlie Kolar moved on to the Chargers with Justin Herbert. Those departures created a clear need for another tight end who could handle blocking responsibilities while still contributing when called upon. Smythe's 136 career catches show that he can do more than just block if the situation demands it. Another move that deserves attention is the return of Chidobe Awuzie. The Ravens brought him back on a one-year deal worth $5 million fully guaranteed, and from a roster standpoint, that decision makes a lot of sense. Cornerback depth is one of those things that teams never seem to have enough of. Injuries happen constantly at that position, and even when everyone is healthy, defensive backs rotate frequently during games. Awuzie already proved last season that he could contribute. He started 5 games and played in 14 overall. While some fans remember the moment he bit on a route during the Steelers game that allowed a touchdown, the bigger picture is that he provided reliable depth when the Ravens needed it. Bringing him back ensures that the team has another experienced option behind players like Nate Wiggins, Marlon Humphrey, and TJ Tampa. But the move that truly changed the tone of this offseason might be the deal for Trey Hendrickson. After the entire situation involving the potential Max Crosby trade created confusion and frustration among fans, the Ravens responded by making a massive investment in their pass rush. Hendrickson's contract reportedly came in at 4 years and $112 million, showing that Baltimore was willing to spend big to secure a proven edge rusher. That decision also sends a message to the rest of the league. There were concerns that the failed Crosby situation could damage the Ravens' reputation when it came to trades or negotiations with players. Some people even wondered whether agents and teams would become more hesitant to deal with Baltimore moving forward. But the Hendrickson signing proves something important. Money talks in the NFL. When a team is willing to pay the price, deals still get done. Hendrickson's camp clearly had no